Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Hadley. Welcome. I graduated from Ryerson University's Architectural Science program in 2020 and I started in 2015. I just wanted to give a whole rundown, a really big deep dive into my experience in architecture school. If you think about going into any architecture school, I hope this gives you some insight. If you think you're going to go to Ryerson University for architectural science, this is definitely applicable. If you're already there, maybe this will help you. And if you've graduated, maybe you can relate. Without further ado, here's my deep dive into every single year of my architectural science undergraduate degree. Okay, so I'm just gonna go right into it. I'm looking at the faculty website right now. I'll put it up on my screen. We're going to look at the courses of the architectural science program. Here it says common first 3 years. It means exactly what it says. It means the first 3 years are going to be common for everybody. So everyone's going to be taking the same courses at the same time. So you have to take all of these classes as a prerequisite for the next semester. And that's the same for 3 years. I'm gonna go show you my schedule in a second, but these are the exact same courses that I took as well. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 courses, and this one here with the asterisks, that one means that it is weighted for 3 credits. You'll have 21 mandatory hours. After that little breakdown, I want to show you my schedule and go a bit more in depth. Okay, so the classes here, this is my schedule. Starting off real strong, Monday, 8 a.m. This class, the Built Context lecture, this one, I will be honest, I felt that it was the exact same as the Built World lecture. The Built World was more fun. The Built World lecture had the best project in the whole semester. Okay, next, Communication Studio. This is your first studio. You're gonna learn a lot. When I was there, the first year, especially the first semester, they really wanted you to hand draw. They wanted to discourage the use of the computers. They wanted everyone to learn how to draft by hand because it's a fundamental skill. The natural context, that is physics. So this class, I don't know who teaches it now, but when I took it, it was really fun. And this one we actually took, it says Yonge Dundas Square 15. That's the movie theater right at Yonge and Dundas. So really comfy seats. Really weird that it's in a movie theater. I think that's really unique for University of Downtown Toronto. I think that's really unique that we got to have lectures in a movie theater, but that also just reflects on the size of the university and how it was growing. It has nowhere to put its students other than the movie theater. We're back. Technical difficulties resolved. Okay, good experience with this physics class. And then we have this huge break. Ideas that shape the world. This was a philosophy class, and I really liked this class. I took it a bit more seriously than I think I should have because this had actually very little to do with architecture. I think a lot of people had the same thoughts, like this class was kind of unrelated, but looking back it's very relevant and I'm glad that I put a lot of time into it, but I also should have probably put more time into my actual studio class. 1 hour here of my liberal elective, and then the rest of the day was studio. So that's my first semester of the architecture program. To wrap up this semester, I'm gonna estimate how many all-nighters that I took. I don't think I took any all-nighters for the Built context. For the Built World, I didn't have all-nighters for this class, but I definitely had late nights working on the tower project. Me and my group definitely waited until the last week or so until this was due. Because we are the procrastination nation in the architecture building. Communication Studio. Okay, I took way too many all-nighters for this class, and what I mean by an all-nighter is a night that I spent less than 2 or 3 hours sleeping. I don't know. There were some late nights that I just should have probably slept. It would have been more productive. I'm gonna guess I took 4 all-nighters and 1 like full all-nighter where I had no sleep for at least 24 hours. The semester started on January 15th, which is really late now that I think about it. But anyway, so us lucky architecture students get to go back 4 days before everybody else, which is excellent. Also, the engineering students have to do this as well. Engineering students' classes actually start on this Monday, so they are 4 days ahead of everyone else in the whole university. and so are architecture students, but we don't have our classes yet. It's kind of confusing. The collaborative exercise is just a 4-day class where you're put into groups with first, second, third year, fourth year students. The first collaborative exercise I did, the theme was water, and it was like a water pavilion that we had to do as a group, and I remember this being really fun and really chill. They get a bit more chaotic as the years go by. 7 to 8 hour day for 4 days, and then on Friday your classes start. So this is my full week of the second semester. Here I did not take a liberal elective, so I'm only taking the mandatory classes. So starting off strong, again, Monday, 8 a.m. We love that. The building project, I don't really remember that class very well. Oh no, okay, yes I do. It just wasn't my favorite. I don't really remember the curriculum for it very well, but I do remember the project, and I remember that we had to do large-scale exploded axonometrics, which I always thought was going to be pretty scary, but once I got down to drawing it, it was actually really fun. I wish I kept it because it was like it looked pretty good. And then we have this nice 7-hour break. Perfect time to do your studio. Ideas, Tech, and Precedents 1 lecture. This is our first history class. So this is about ancient civilizations and the architecture behind them. This was really interesting. I wish I took it a bit more seriously. I'm gonna say that a lot in my first and second year. Take your courses seriously. This is your foundation. When you show your interests in something, you'll be able to know what you like later on, which is going to be really helpful when you're choosing your stream of architecture. Design Studio 1. Okay, so studio and then a break. Wednesday, no classes. That means you're going to be in the architecture building doing your studio. Sustainable practice lecture. This was a very introductory level of sustainability. I love this class. This was great. Very fundamental. Very good. Structures. Okay. I don't know how it is anymore, but when I was there, a lot of people struggled with this class. It was really difficult, but getting together with your friends who understand it and do the project was really helpful, really helpful. You're always going to be with your friends teaching each other and learning off of each other. Do not be afraid to share notes in this program. That's how you're going to survive. You're going to find people that you're gonna hold hands with each other and you're gonna learn together. Apparently I always had 8 a.m. Monday classes, all the time. The construction project, this was good. I like this. This was kind of the first introduction to detailing. This is kind of a continuation from one of the classes last semester. Design Studio 2, I had a really good professor, he taught us a lot. Class would end at 3 p.m. We would be there until 6, just listening to him talk to us. And it was really interesting, very helpful. Ideas, Tech, and Precedents 2, this was history. The Design Studio 2 for 6 hours. Envelope Systems. Envelope Systems was really fun. This is the building science introductory class. This actually kind of made me think about going into building science, but I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I can enjoy parts of building science, but also apply it to design. So Structures 2. This Structures class is very different from Structures 1. Structures 1 is more engineering, and this one is about the Ontario Building Code. You just learn how to apply and use the building code a little bit. Okay, second year winter semester. Before everyone else goes back to university, we have the collaborative exercise number 2. Pass or fail. Don't fail the collab. So Design Studio 3, this was our first kind of dabble in residential, so a mixed use residential building. So another thing that I'm gonna add is for our studio projects, very few of them were residential. If you go into this program thinking you're gonna be designing the coolest houses, you're not. You're not going to be doing that. Bodily comfort systems. We called it the HVAC class. So I liked this class. Again, look, we're in the movie theater. History 3. This was my favorite history class. This focused on basically everything after the Industrial Revolution. The things we learned in this class stuck with me more. Site development and planning. This one was really fun. All the other classes for studios and construction, we focus on the building itself, and then this class we dove more into the site, so landscaping, again, in the movie theater. Structures 3, it's more similar to Structures 1. So Structures 1, hard, Structures 2, less hard, Structures 3, hard again. Okay, now here's the tea. Third year was a gap year for me. What I did on my gap year, I retook a class that I failed in second year. It actually happens quite often. It's really nothing to be ashamed about. I failed the Structures 3 class and I had to retake it. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning when I said everything has to be taken in sequence. So whether you drop a course or fail a course, you have to go back for a whole year just to retake that one course. And I actually met up with some of my other friends who I started in first year with, and they, for one reason or another, were also, I don't want to say we were behind because then it feels like we're comparing ourselves to the other students, which you shouldn't do that. Like, don't compare yourself to anyone ever. Whether you're the one succeeding or you're the one failing, everyone's success is different. So anyway, back to the programming. So that during my gap year, I finished all of my liberal electives, which was a really good idea. And that just freed up a lot of my time for third and fourth year. When I passed structures, now I was able to go into my actual third year of the architecture program. So into my third year of the architecture undergrad, I had Mondays off. This is excellent. Okay, so this is where the curriculum starts to be a bit more different. First and second year, there were 5 mandatory classes, now there are 4. The course number gets lighter, but the course load never seems to get lighter. Like, all these courses get always a bit more intense. So I don't know if it was because I failed a course and I felt like I had to make up for that, but third and fourth year, I really kicked it into high gear. I took all my courses way more seriously than I did before because I was taking it more seriously. I liked my classes, like I liked all of them a lot more. So that's also my advice for someone who's starting out. Put all your effort into it, because the more you put into it, the more you're gonna get out of it. Anyway, back to the curriculum. Integration, studio, tectonics and materiality. Tectonics meaning kind of like the significance of buildings and the significance of the materials. I really liked it. And then the human world lecture, this is urban planning. So this was like quite interesting, but also not that interesting. Maybe it was just the professor who taught it like wasn't the most engaging, but I remember a lot of people skipped out on it because it was Friday afternoon and people were gearing up for the project economics, which was a lot more intense, but I always felt bad because it was the same classroom, and then at the end of the class, everyone just shows up for the project management class, the project economics class. The curriculum for this course was a little dry, but not everything can be the best. So the project economics class, this class was really excellent. It was really hard. The professor for this class was amazing. They explained architecture, the business side. I don't know. This was just, it was really good, and I hope the same professor is still teaching it. This professor really drove the idea of sustainability, and that was really cool because we had to use energy analysis programs. That was a good introductory way to use Revit. I remember doing very few all-nighters this semester. I did maybe 1 or 2 for studio, but I don't think I did any for anything else. In third and fourth year, I really got more disciplined with my all-nighters, and I only did them when I really had to, and I made sleep a priority. Now we are into 2019, winter semester for my third year. Okay, so for this semester actually was really, really important to me. Like, I really liked this semester specifically in my whole undergrad. Third year, winter semester. I don't know what it was. Okay, no, I know what it was. There were a lot of group projects. Like, everything here was a group project. Here we go. We have principles of detailing. This one actually I remember had a lot of small projects, and as long as you followed the outline, they were quite simple. So then this studio, before all your studio projects were independent, studio here is in partners. So make sure you get a good reliable partner, someone that you can communicate properly with. That's gonna be really, really important. Studio with a partner is easier and harder. It's easier because there are 2 people doing the work. It's harder because you have to make decisions together. And that's gonna be really challenging. And it was challenging for me, it was challenging for my friends. But it's a really good learning experience because in the real world, architecture is never just one person working on something. Like, it's always going to be a multitude of people. Even when you're an independent designer, you're still going to be working with the client. So there already, it's two people working on a project. I had a really good partner. We worked really well together and we pulled it off. And we definitely had an all-nighter for this one. I remember specifically, I think the deadline was maybe midnight, and we finished the model maybe around 6 a.m. And then the next day was a snow day. That was awesome. Okay, document and construction contract. This had a huge group projects. Like, I think we were in groups of like 7 to 9 people. I think it had 1 or 2 tests or a midterm, but it was basically 3 or 4 big assignments. And everyone calls this class condocs. So for condocs, me and my group would sit in my studio section and just kind of bang it out. It was really chaotic, but it was really fun. Okay, another big thing about third year is that this is when you have to use Revit. I don't know about how it is now. Like, nobody used Revit until third year. When I was in school, first year was AutoCAD and Rhino and hand drawing. Second year, AutoCAD, Rhino, and hand drawing. And of course the Adobe software like InDesign, Illustrator. And then in third year, people started to use Revit. We had to use Revit a little bit for the project management class. For condocs, it really pushed us in. Studio, and then light and sound in architecture. This one also a lot of group projects. This was really interesting, like the concepts between light and sound. They were kind of basic and introductory level concepts. All of the other classes here have to do with a lot more design and like the construction documents is less about design and more about documenting. However, light and sound in architecture did involve math, and the math wasn't hard, but it was just using like the right math. I remember this class being really difficult, and a lot of people found it difficult, and the exams were difficult, so the projects here were really what brought our grades up. In fourth year, it gets different. I think it's different compared to when I did it in 2019-2020. You have to choose your concentration. So the options here are architecture, building science, project management, and no concentration. And that wasn't an option when I was in fourth year. Okay, we're just gonna ignore the lighting and how it's changing. You get to have a studio, and also there's 1 mandatory class, and then you get to choose 2 classes from what I understand. But when I was in the architecture stream, the only mandatory class was the studio, and the other 3 classes you get to pick from the architectural professional courses. So in first, second, third year, everything is mandatory. The only things that you get to pick are your liberal electives. And in fourth year, you get to pick all your courses. You get to pick your studio. So the studio that I chose was about architecture that's highly energy efficient. This studio was actually a renovation project. It was a retrofit about the current architecture building. Like, I had a significant relationship with the architecture building, as all architecture students had. 10 out of 10, really liked it, really liked the professor. The professional related electives I chose were the construction case studies advanced lecture. That one was really good. That course was basically one big project that you had to do with a partner, and then you had to build a model. That course was really cool. I liked it a lot. There were always presentations happening from your peers and learning from each other, so that was great. Also, I welded my first thing for this class. I wish I still had the model. I actually recently got rid of it, but I welded something for this class, so that was really cool. Digital tools. This was a really cool class. Quite difficult. This one was really interesting actually. We had to make videos. We learned how to use Premiere, Grasshopper, Arduino, like moving, parametric, 3D printing. That was really cool. It was less about architecture and more about design in more of a grander scheme of things. And then this selected topics in architectural science, this was called sustainable housing. So this was a lot about urban planning. When I kind of saw the title of the class that said sustainable housing, I more so interpret it as sustainability, net zero, highly energy efficient. It was that, but it was also about community and urban planning. In those projects, I kind of combined the two. I definitely did an all-nighter for this, working with my friend on our final project. For construction case studies, I don't think I did an all-nighter, but I definitely had a few late nights. For my retrofit sustainability studio, I had 1 all-nighter, and I think this was my favorite all-nighter that I ever had. I came into studio maybe 9 a.m. the day before it was due, and I expected to just be alone in my studio for the whole time. But then my friend came in and we sat together, and we did not stop working from when we got there until the next day at like 11 p.m. So that was a solid day and a half of just non-stop studio. And I just did not get tired until it was done. And once it was done, I felt so drained, but it felt so good that I was able to sit there and concentrate for like 30 hours. Having my friend there definitely made a huge difference. Like if I was just sitting there alone, I would have probably spiraled at one point. Choose your all-nighters very carefully. Only do them when you have to. Digital tools, I must have had an all-nighter for digital tools. We definitely had late nights. So that's another thing also for third and fourth year, you get a lot better at managing your time. And by that I mean, how late can you start something and still complete everything? That's kind of a strategy. It doesn't matter when you start things, you're gonna get it done. So fourth year, winter semester, my last semester in the architectural science program. This semester was when I really started to experience some burnout, and that's very common. And a way to get out of the burnout is just to make a change, like change something. So soon here in 2020, we all know what that big change is coming for. So this is my experience with 2020. I got to choose all of these classes, including my studio. I chose sustainable rating systems, which was actually taught by the same professor that I had for the fall for my studio. We learned about the sustainable rating systems like LEED, Passive House, and then the project for this class was that we had to design our own sustainable rating system, as well as an exam. I really liked that. This architectural writing course, it was probably my least favorite. The least to do with actual design, and at this point I was designing a lot. I wanted to continue. The writing was just not what I wanted to be doing. However, I did like it because I wanted to improve my architectural writing skills, and I think I did. This architecture studio, I chose mass timber design, and this was really cool because it's like a leading technology now. It's up and coming, it's still up and coming. This studio is so good. Maybe I'll make a video about my final studio project because I'm just so proud of it. Like I put a lot of effort into it. Advanced digital design was also kind of like a spin-off of the digital tools from the fall. It was more architecturally based rather than the digital tools in the fall was more about concept, and this was more construction based. So as I said before, I was experiencing a lot of burnout. I felt like I was really slacking in my studio, even though it was where I wanted to be. I was really passionate about the studio. I couldn't bring myself to really put a lot of effort into the work. And dun dun dun, when COVID happened and we had to go home, I really remember it. Like I remember for a week and a half maybe, the school was kind of going nuts, like what are we gonna do? What's gonna happen? And you could tell something shifted, like the professors were talking about it, the students were talking about it, everyone was talking about it. And then March 13th came around and they said, you're going home. The change for me that happened here was going from the studio to working at home. My work ethic completely changed because the atmosphere changed. Maybe it was my need for distraction, like I needed to distract myself from what was going on with COVID, but my studio that was slacking in the studio was now thriving at home. After the shift of going home, this was at the very early stage of Zoom University, so a lot of the professors just weren't comfortable with the technology and with the camera. I think that was a big problem, a big hurdle for a lot of professors. Definitely not like that now. Like probably a lot of them have at least a little bit adjusted. At the beginning, I know it was really tough and I know they did their best. I also felt really bad because when I would tune into lectures, half the class would be missing or the screens would be black. That's maybe why I was able to excel. Instead of having to be in class, I was able to go through a lecture at my own time when I needed to, like when I was in the zone. But I was still able to get everything done. I was still able to play the game, when can I start this project, and still get an A. Still able to play that even at home. This also was the first time I was ever early to finish a studio project. I finished the studio project a full day before it was due, and then I got on Zoom with some of my friends and we rehearsed our presentations. So that concluded my 4th year. I did not have a graduation. I did not get to go out for dinner after my final studio with my friends. I just uploaded my final projects and I graduated a few months later. Got my diploma in the mail. It's sitting over there on the floor. It's not even up. So that concludes my really deep dive into Ryerson University's Architectural Science program. So I hope you've learned something here, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll probably make another video of anything I missed. I'll be back in the future talking about more, and I hope you liked this.